So it's a very positive update for driver Sting Ray Robb, who suffered that dramatic accident at the end of the Iowa Speedway IndyCar race on Sunday. We'll be talking about that, as well as some additional new comments from Ed Carpenter, speaking about his displeasure with IndyCar's very, very young hybrid era. There's also a new driver on the scene for IndyCar at Toronto, and I also want to talk about what I believe is the most exciting race car in a very, very long time. My boomer soul is just a little bit revitalized because this car will be racing next year. We'll talk about that in just a second, but I always fail to do this, and I'm going to just do it up front. I'm going to remind you to subscribe to this channel. We're well on our way to 100,000 subscribers, and it's been a fantastic journey, and I look forward to keep rolling on through the years. So I appreciate all of you who have subscribed and watch. And tomorrow is going to be a pretty busy day. I've got two broadcast appearances that I hope you guys will tune in for. The first one, if you want to hear about Indy cars and sports cars and whatnot, I will be doing a stream for the DL 500 Club starting at 8 o'clock Eastern time. You can join at the Patreon in the link in the description and check that out. And then at 9 p.m. Eastern, if you want to hear me talk NASCAR, and in particular, the return of the Brickyard 400, which I will be covering in person this weekend, I will be on the NASCAR Weekly podcast, I believe, on the Icebergs channel, joining he and Eric Estep and Danny B Talks to talk about NASCAR's much anticipated return to the 2.5 mile oval at Indianapolis. So going to be a lot of fun there. A very busy day for me. Busy week, as usual, as you guys know, when there is race day in Indianapolis. But let's talk about Sting Ray Robb, because, of course, there was a lot of folks concerned about his well-being after the race. And we'll start with AJ Foyt Racing's statement, which is a very positive one. After a final evaluation by IndyCar Medical, we are happy to share that Sting Ray has been cleared to compete this weekend in Toronto. He's looking forward to getting back behind the wheel of the number 41 Goodhart vet/pray.com Chevrolet. Thank you to everyone who reached out and showed their support. But Sting Ray actually did a media conference today, although I was unable to attend. Thankfully, IndyCar posts the transcripts of these press conferences for those of us who were unable to attend to read and learn all of the information that was gained there. And Sting Ray had a ton of interesting things to say about that accident and about his process of getting back and cleared to race at Toronto this week. Specifically, which I thought was incredible, although I believed it having been an eyewitness to the accident myself. Sting Ray reported that the impact was registered at 109 Gs. That is 109 times the force of gravity, an incredibly difficult impact. In fact, Simon Pagenaud's, the one that was a career ender for him at Mid-Ohio last year, was registered at 112 Gs. So just think about that and consider that when you think about the violence of that accident. He also reported that he briefly lost consciousness once he had been extracted by the car by the medical team, but quickly came to. His specific quote on his injuries is this. Honestly, the worst injury I got was on my finger. I touched the halo getting out of the car. Turns out when you take titanium and scrape it across the ground for a few hundred feet, it gets hot. Don't recommend. Lesson learned, says Sting Ray. Robb was airlifted from the track to receive a CAT scan where it came back clear, and that's, of course, why he will be racing in Toronto. Here's another quote from Sting Ray. The fact of the matter is I should be more hurt than I am. I don't know why I'm okay as I am. I'm giving glory to God for that. And, I mean, I'm telling you, man, I was on the back straightaway. I saw the whole thing develop. It was one of the most frightening crashes I've seen. I kind of said to some folks on Twitter when it came out that it was 109 Gs of impact force, a lot of folks were like, I can't believe it was that high. And, I think while NBC did a great job of capturing the accident, and you saw pretty much what I saw, I don't necessarily think television captured how just violent that impact was, especially the first one dropping down from that high up. I mean, that's the highest up I think I've ever seen an IndyCar fly. I mean, I guess I did see Mike Conway's crash in 2010 in person at the Indianapolis 500, but it's been a very long time since I saw a car get that high in person. And just the sheer violence of that car hitting the ground and then tumbling down the backstretch and sliding. I was very adrenaline filled. I mean, I my hand was shaking for like 20 minutes after the accident. I mean, I was standing in the media center, kind of putting my equipment together to make a video, and I'm like, oh, my hand's still shaking. And I can't even imagine the forces that Stingray, and what he went through actually being in the crash. It was traumatic just witnessing it. So it's great. I mean, I'm kind of surprised, honestly. I to a certain extent expected that he would be out a race at least after a crash like that, but it's just a testament to the safety, and I'm sure a little bit of luck that everything's all good with Stingray and he'll race in Toronto. So that's best case scenario. There's no doubt about it for Sting Ray Robb. And I would also like to say that there is a different driver going to be driving at Toronto, although this is not necessarily, I guess it is technically a replacement, although Jack Harvey, I don't think was ever intended to drive at the Honda Indy Toronto, but Hunter McElrea will make his IndyCar debut in the number 18 Dale Coyne racing car, which Tony DeZinno on Twitter posted a really interesting stat, which is that now makes, with McElrea making a start for Dale Coyne, this is the most drivers that Dale Coyne has ever had in a single season, and we've still got 5 races to go. So how about that? Dale Coyne full of surprises, and I still don't think we're fully 100% sure who the 51 car is going to be. I believe Luca Giotto still has 1 race remaining on his initial contract with Dale Coyne. We'll see if he ends up at Toronto or if he takes a shot at Portland. But you got to imagine that Toby Sowery has certainly gotten onto that radar at this point, though who knows what the funding situation is. But well-deserved for Hunter McElrea. I'm glad he's in a seat for at least 1 race this year. Ed Carpenter stood on his content, stood on his business, I guess we'll say, stood on the comments he made at the end of Toronto yesterday, speaking with Jake Query on the local Indianapolis radio station 107.5 The Fan. The full conversation will be linked with a time code in the description if you'd like to listen to it. Not a ton of new information, it has to be said, from Ed Carpenter. I think the good news about it, or not the good news, but the newsworthy aspect of it is that Ed has had time to sleep on his comments, went on another radio station, went on another media source, and backed up what he said. I saw some comments yesterday that said, well, it's a heat of the moment, Ed crashed out, it was sour grapes, but now that he had time to sleep and look at the reaction, Ed is still standing by his comments. So I think that certainly says something about why he made the comments that he did, and precisely how important I think he thinks it is to get that message out there. And I think the biggest point that maybe was clarified from his comments that he made after the race is that, I think I even said it when I was reading the comment. He said, well, it hasn't made a contribution to the racing. And I said, well, what he probably means is it hasn't made a positive contribution. And in listening to that particular segment of audio, that was what he specifically clarified, that, which is that he believes the hybrid does not make a positive contribution to the racing. And he was pressed by Jake Query, are there any other folks within the sport who feel the same way? And Rossi gave a very diplomatic answer, which is that he was only speaking for himself, which, frankly, I got the distinct impression that he was simply not going to throw someone else under the bus who is not prepared to go public with their feelings. I mean, again, the impression I got in the paddock is mixed at best on the midseason debut of the hybrid. So Ed's comments don't necessarily shock me. I'm glad that someone made a public comment. And, frankly, I saw a lot of comments yesterday that I was actually surprised how much support there was for the hybrid in the comments section of yesterday's video. And I think there's a lot of copium going around right now. I think the fan base of IndyCar wants things to be good so badly that sometimes they're blinded by what is plainly obvious in front of them. I think that's my comment on some of the, what I would describe as overly positive comments about the hybrid. Now, that being said, Christian Lundgaard, and I believe I put that quote in one of my videos, was that Lundgaard said the most impact we're going to see thus far is going to be at Toronto. So I guess we'll wait and see. But certainly with an oval heavy calendar going into the remainder of the year, I'm a little bit less than optimistic about the racing quality going forward. Palate cleanser time, because I am very excited about this. And it's not up. There we go. Now it's up. I am very excited about this particular race car. You might be saying, what is this, David? That's a sporty car. This ain't an open wheel racing car. This ain't an Indy car. And I would say, yes, it is. It is not, I should say. It should be an Indy car. But this is Aston Martin's new hypercar, which was tested today at Silverstone. And just look at that beast. That is just a fantastic looking car. But it gets better, because not only is this car going to race with a 2-car program in the World Endurance Championship, but this will also race with a 1-car program in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. And IMSA, not sold yet. This car is powered by a V12 built by Cosworth, and it does not have a hybrid. Chassis built by Multimatic, and it, if you look at the center of the car, in fact, on my desk, although you can't see it in this shot, I have a Porsche 963, and the center spline of this car, as expected, makes sense, because why would Multimatic design a ground-up, brand-new chassis for sports car racing? This is very much a Porsche with Aston Martin bodywork and aerodynamics. There's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. It is just looks the business. And I would guess I would put it this way. This is very much a car that I would say aerodynamically is like if Ferrari designed the Porsche, because you've got that really big, complicated rear wing on the back, which also, happens to have some Glickenhaus inspiration to it. So it's essentially a Porsche 963 that's kind of mated with a 499 Ferrari and the 007 Glickenhaus with a V12 engine that isn't electrified whatsoever. Heart of Racing, as you can see the logo on the car in the blue, it will be running the car both in the World Endurance Championship and in IMSA. This will be the first car that is non-hybrid powered in the top class since last year when Glickenhaus and Van Wall raced in the World Endurance Championship. Currently, WEC is all hybrid, all 23 hypercars at the Le Mans 24 Hours, as well as the regular season, are all hybrid powered this year, although next year that will not be the case. At least 2 cars will not be hybrid powered, and it will be this Aston Martin kind of carrying the non-electrification banner. And then in IMSA, this will be the first car competing in the GTP class with no electrification component, which kind of goes to my point yesterday of, hey, I like to see competition. I like to see the best idea win. If you're going to have hybrid cars, let's have some non-hybrid cars and race against them. And oh, by the way, it's a V12. I'm excited, man. That's kind of one of those things. I'm jaded. I'm very quickly becoming an old man. I turned 31 on the 10th. I'm sitting here and I'm getting my walker out and I'm going, things were so much better in the past. And then something like this comes along and I go, oh, there is hope for this sport after all. There is something to look forward to. There is technology that is still fun to look at and fun to hear with your ear. There was a video posted of this car, of it going through. In fact, the screenshots, I believe, are from that video of it going through the Maggots-Beckett's complex at Silverstone. The problem was the car was off throttle, so you couldn't hear the V12. So I'm sure those videos will be coming very soon. I'm just in love. When can I buy a Spark model? That's what I want to know. So I'll leave on a positive note, and the positive note is racing can still be cool. Racing can still be fun. Sports car racing is going to be a lot of fun next year. Thank you guys so much for watching. Brickyard coverage coming up for the NASCAR Brickyard 400 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Looking forward to that. Also looking forward to the NASCAR Weekly Podcast and talking with you folks in the DL 500 Club. Glad Sting Ray's okay. We'll see you in the next video.